But right now, let's have a warm thank you to our special guest stars, Andres Bossard, Floriana Frasetta, and Bernie Church, better known as the Mummenschanz.
Imagine this, you're a child in 1977, sitting cross-legged in front of the television. You're waiting for Kermit, Miss Piggy, and all the familiar chaos of the Muppet Show. The music, the jokes, the warmth. But that night, something else appeared on screen. Instead of puppets, the stage filled with towering figures, faceless, silent and unsettling. Their heads weren't soft and friendly, but strange constructions of clay, cardboard tubes and rubber stretched into inhuman shapes. They didn't speak. They didn't sing. They only stared and twisted and moved in silence. This was Mummenschanz, a Swiss mime troupe invited by Jim Henson himself. They were famous in Europe for their avant-garde performances, their masks and their silence. Their art blurred the line between the human and the inhuman, replacing laughter with unease. But for millions of unsuspecting families tuning into the Muppet Show, the sudden shift was shocking. One skit showed performers dragging at enormous tubular masks, pulling grotesque faces that sagged back into featureless lumps. Another had black-clad figures holding blank shapes, bending them into distorted faces before letting them collapse into nothing. The Muppets themselves, usually quick to fill silence with chatter, said nothing. They simply watched, just as the audience at home did. There was no music, no jokes, no laughter track, just the faint hiss of sound effects and the heavy silence pressing against the screen. For children, it was terrifying. Recordings from the night show squirming kids in the studio audience. Some hid their faces, others sat frozen, unsure whether to laugh or to cry. The reaction afterward was mixed. Adults admired the artistry, calling it bold and experimental. But many parents were disturbed. Letters poured in describing how their children had nightmares. Some confessed they themselves had been unsettled by the performance. This was not the Muppets they knew. Instead of whimsy, they saw distorted forms and faceless masks, shifting in silence heavier than any punchline. For Mummenschanz, it was a triumph. Their art reached millions in a single night. They went on to tour the world, bringing their surreal performances to new audiences. But for the Muppet Show, it was a one-time experiment, never repeated, never revisited. And yet, decades later, that episode still lingers as one of the strangest moments in the show's history. Why did Jim Henson invite them? Some say he wanted to push boundaries, to challenge audiences with art outside the comfort zone of comedy. Others believe he admired their innovation, their ability to tell stories without a single word. Whatever the reason, the result was unforgettable. For the children of the late 1970s, it was a memory that burned itself into their minds. A night when their beloved puppets stepped aside and the silence stared back. Even now, when fans revisit that episode, they describe a creeping unease. The masks bend, the faces stretch, the silence fills the room, heavier than laughter ever could. It is remembered as art, it is remembered as theatre, but above all, it is remembered as the strangest, most unsettling night in the history of the Muppet Show. Millions tuned in expecting laughter, but what they got instead was unease.